Well, thank you guys again for joining us on our 8th series, 8 podcast of 8 right now. So yeah, just wanted to quickly just welcome you all to Stay Moving series as a quick little recap. The vision for us is just to share knowledge and insight for everybody. And our goal is after this call, share it on YouTube and all the different networks. And our hopes is to help other people throughout the shifting economy. When we go through it, we truly want everybody to kind of think differently and conduct an open dialogue. So we'll be asking questions that relate to business, creative, as well as digital as we go through that. The goal for this, like I said earlier, just keep a step ahead in the shifting economy. And then at the end of the day, just sharing this insight for us all to work together to become stronger on the other side. So thank you all for joining us for the Stay Moving series. So today's super excited. Our agenda here is we'll be chatting through one in particular, a startup in the alcohol industry. We'll go through some industry stats. Meet the crew from Bomani Cold Buzz, go through business trends, creative, digital, and then also have a recap of ideas. So if you guys have any questions throughout, definitely just add it in the chat, and we'll address it as we go through. But at the end of the day, just excited to have you guys all here and just having an open dialogue together. So as we all know, right now, definitely a lot of huge trends happening in the alcohol space, especially given the certain times that we're at right now. So to give us a little bit of context, this industry, $220 billion is the market expected to reach over in 2020. So as you can tell, the market share is immense. The cost per unit has increased in all categories, up by 28%, which is extremely interesting to kind of see specifically in the spirits. And then the ready to drink market is just something that we've started to see more and more over the last, X amount of years. And that couples up to 9.4 billion in revenue. So as you can see, alcohol is definitely the great place to be. And I always say that this market just works really well in the good times and really well in the bad times. So it's very, it doesn't matter on the seasonality of it because people are always going to be drinking. And I think that's always a good thing for this type of industry. So with that said, excited to welcome the crew here. I'll let you guys introduce yourself individually. But one of the main reasons why we're super drawn to you guys is just your creativity, your tenacity, and just, of course, just who you guys are. And I love how values driven you guys are with your brand. I think you guys have done an immense job doing that online. So if you guys want to quickly introduce your guys self, and just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Sam. Thank you again, guys, for having us, and thank you for the kind words. I'm our co-founder and CEO, meaning that my responsibilities are mostly sales and strategy. In terms of background, I was in investment banking, so kind of was doing the finance thing. Originally California born and raised, but moved across the country to pursue a career in consumer products M&A.
Cool. Hey guys, I am Kai Drury. I am our co-founder and COO. That means I lead most of our supply chain, our distributor management, and our retail relations. Background, just like Sam and Amin, I'm also from California, born and raised, went to Cal Berkeley before moving across the country to work in investment banking in the M&A group in New York as well.
Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Amin Anjadani, co-founder and chief of product and design. Basically, I lead all things brand and product related. So a lot of our marketing initiatives, stylistic direction, creative direction. My background grew up in coffee. My family owned coffee shops in the Bay Area for years. So this is a very full circle experience for me. Went to school at Chapman University in Southern California. Always thought I'd end up in entertainment. Ended up going to work in finance in New York. Met these guys out there, and then the rest is history.
Like clockwork, guys.
Got it frozen? There we go.
Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you, guys. So yeah, just hitting on the business side of things, I think this is the most exciting kind of part is just to understand from the high level point of view when we're looking at it. So as we can tell, right, having experience in the alcohol industry, it's very cash intensive. A lot of brands, larger brands kind of own the market share, right? It's a very highly saturated marketplace. But what I think is so unique about what you guys have done is you've essentially infused 2 very popular type of drinks, obviously coffee and then alcohol, and kind of mesh them together. So, just would love to know a little bit, like, where did that come from? Where did that idea stem from?
Yeah, totally. So we were all working in finance, like we said, in New York City. The idea really came from us working those long weeks, those 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, coming home on a Friday night, and then literally changing out of our suits and ties, making an espresso, and then we would make a drink out of it. And in doing that, we looked around and said, all of our options right now aren't exactly what we want. It was to go get an energy drink and mix that with vodka, and then we all know how that goes. You end up filling your body with sugar and carbs and synthetic caffeine, and you end up hungover for 2 days. You can call it what it is. And the other option was to go get like an espresso martini or another coffee cocktail or cold brew cocktail from from a local bar. But first of all, bartenders don't really like making those drinks because it's a pretty heavy lift to draw the espresso and make a drink out of it. And at the same time, from the consumer's perspective, it's pretty inconvenient to have to do that. And then on top of all of that, you still haven't solved the problem with the sugar and the carbs and the dairy and everything. So our vision was pretty simple. It was like, okay, let's create a better alternative for alcohol plus caffeine. And we said, what does better mean? Better means healthier, tastier, more convenient. So we said that to ourselves all the time: healthier, tastier, more convenient. And right when we had that vision statement, we decided we were going to take 2 hours a night after work. And at the time in investment banking, you know, that a lot of the time happens well after midnight, to develop this project and see if we could make it into a real business. And we picked the name Bomani because Bomani literally translates to have purpose. We chose that name because during those late nights when we were developing this idea, we felt engaged, passionate. We were working so hard. We had this second wind of energy hit us. We were more awake and more alert in that late night than we were the entire day before it. And we identified that feeling, defined that feeling as discovering a sense of purpose, to create this beverage so other people could go, you know, work towards their purpose without sacrificing their social life or their physical health.
I love that. And it's so funny too, because I think obviously most, you know, whenever you start a company, it's often, you know, after hours and stuff like that. And I just love how passionate you are about starting a brand and whatnot, because it's very, you know, especially when you go through your ups and downs, it's the passion that keeps things rolling. So I love that. So kind of, you know, the drawing off of that, you know, distribution, name of the game, right? Especially in alcohol sales, you name it. And so, you know, you have a phased out distribution based on demand and market performance. Given the current landscape of stuff, like, can you walk us through what's the relationship experience you guys have had with distributors? Maybe what's like a couple lessons you would tell people to learn on that side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I can take this one. So alcohol distribution is actually one of the more challenging sort of puzzle pieces to put together, especially in the space that we are. We're technically classified as a beer. So it's a lot different. It's a much more fragmented market than the spirit space, where you could sign with like a Southern sort of cover the whole country. We really prioritize working with the best distributors in each different geography that we're in. We're thankful that our product has been really well received, and we get to work with some amazing partners. The beer category and distributors have sort of realized that they can't survive based off selling just beer anymore. We keep hearing over and over this Beyond Beer initiative, whether that's the hard seltzers, the hard kombuchas, and now what Bomani Cold Buzz is. It's innovating the all-new Cold Buzz category. So we really provide them a new revenue stream and something that will allow them to keep performing well. Especially during these times, they're really having to focus on what's going to add incremental value to them, because we're seeing, especially with COVID and everything, the craft space really get hit hard. And the distributors and retailers that are prioritizing new innovative products that the consumers are sort of looking to are experiencing growth. So we've been really thankful in that regard. But it is a puzzle piece, and we have to be smart with who we go with. We've brought on people who are industry veterans and have a lot of expertise in it. And that's something we try and do in all phases of our business, is bring in people who know more than us, right? To fill those gaps where we don't have that strength and experience, and learn from them. And that's been something we're really thankful for. So really prioritizing our distribution partners, and then also creating a new online sort of direct-to-consumer platform that we just launched this week to really expand our reach, is something that has been super successful, and we're continuing to prioritize as we expand, especially during these new uncertain sort of climate.
Awesome. Yeah. And to put things in perspective, right? So Screwball Whiskey. So, you know, we have, since it's in the spirits, right? We just have two main distributors. We essentially have a West Coast one and then an East Coast one. And then they do a lot of heavy lifting. And then you have a key supplier who the supplier is like on the ground kind of running. And so thanks for making that distinction. I think a lot of times people, especially newer in this market, you know, when you're in the beer industry or depending on your classification, has a lot of difference in terms of where you go and stuff like that. So thanks for making that distinction.
Yeah.
So I think this is something, right, that we've seen grow more and more. It's just really the growth of the canned and ready-to-drink market. Just the premixes, you name it. I know we were joking earlier about making different cocktails and stuff like that. Can you walk us through, you know, what has that process been like for you guys in terms of bringing together those two different ingredients and really bringing that to market?
Yeah, so I'll let Amin tell the story a little bit more in detail of how this all came to be. But when we first had the idea to create alcohol-infused cold brew coffee, I mean, Amin's family owned coffee shops like his entire growing up experience. So he was like, okay, we're going to start with this 100% Arabica beans, ethically sourced, and then came up with the idea to use the same alcohol we use from the hard seltzers. And then the experience of actually getting it made was a nightmare, like unbelievably difficult. And I could not be more thankful for the industry partners that were able to execute on that. But I'll pass it to Amin to talk more about the formulation phase.
Yeah. So to your point, there were already other products out there in the hard coffee space, in the spirit side mostly, but nothing really in the ready to drink space. We went with a canned RTD because of one of the pillars that we described earlier, which was healthier, tastier, and more convenient, right? And the whole idea was we wanted to create something that was easy enough for the premium, time-strapped, and health-conscious consumer to go grab, crack open, and drink after a long week at work or in the morning after a long night out. When we first had that like vision mapping day, my mind was racing as it tends to do. I'm a brainstormer, and I was kind of running through the Rolodex of various alcohols that we could mix with coffee that would that would allow the premium coffee to come through and not not let the consumer get overwhelmed by the alcohol or like the bite from alcohol, which can tend to really put people off. So at first I was sitting on the couch and I was like, man, tequila, and it's a little too crazy. Like there's all these other things that we can mix in it, but we ran into a bit of a roadblock. And then there was that one moment that we were all in Lake Tahoe for the 4th of July. And we walked into our local grocery and there was a Mount Everest sized stack of White Claws. And we were like, this is insane. What is this? No one's ever seen it. This is the most, what are we looking at? And I remember cracking open one of those White Claws, drinking it and being like, light bulb, whatever alcohol base is in this would go very, very nicely and pair really well with coffee, because if seltzer can come through and taste just like a seltzer, we can make this taste delicious with a coffee base for sure. So we went through, I think, about 40 plus iterations of the original formula of Bomani. We made trips internationally. We got into fights over it. At the end of it, I'm pretty sure Sam and Kai wanted to beat the shit out of me because I wouldn't accept anything short of perfection. Even to this day, people ask, what is that experience every time you open up a Bomani? And my chest tightens up. And I think that forever, I'm always going to get nervous before I open one up because we put in so much time, effort, and energy into it. But the final formula is really exciting. It's super light. We talk about the Amin and Kai spectrum, right? I like my coffee super intense and black. Kai likes it a little bit on the lighter side, more like cappuccino style. We had to find that middle ground where somebody who wasn't necessarily a seasoned coffee drinker could crack into one of these things and go, man, this is delicious. And also somebody who appreciates the complexities of coffee would be like, oh, you guys did not dumb this down. So I think the final drink really got us there.
Yeah. The one thing I would add as well, Amin did a great job telling the story, but as the three of us did come from finance backgrounds, we are data nerds in that sense. And so Bomani is actually combining the two fastest growing subcategories in the entire beverage market, because we use the same alcohol-based hard seltzers and then cold brew coffee. Everyone's seen the growth in that. So it's an exciting time to be bringing the two together and then also capitalizing on all the other trends of the better for you aspect. Because Bomani is 110 calories, no carbs, no sugar, gluten-free, dairy-free, everything that really the modern consumer is looking for. And so we feel that we found the perfect balance of that better for you while bringing enough flavor and a great tasting product together.
Yeah, perfect. And then that kind of segues us even into the next big trend, right? So consumers have those types of key value props that they're looking for, right? That all the top brands are starting to do nowadays. And then couple it with what our consumer behavior is, right? Online. So as we know, e-commerce beverage sales have increased dramatically thanks to, this is, I'd say, one positive of the whole COVID situation. It's really taken and ramped up a lot of consumer, their buying habits, right? Something where a lot of people might not do the subscription of alcohol, or they might not do ship to your door before. They're like, I could just go to the store right before I go. But now we're really kind of forcing a little bit more of these consumer behaviors. So now post all the situation, we're going to see it happening a lot more and more. So how have you guys been adapting kind of to e-commerce, and what are some of the strategies you guys have been having in place with this, seeing the massive growth with e-com?
Yeah, absolutely. And this data was so jarring when we first looked at it. I mean, if you look at alcohol sales online, 5% of all the alcohol sold is sold online, whereas 16% of all other retail is online. So less than a third compared to the rest of the market, which is shocking. We just launched our DTC platform on Wednesday. So you can get Bomani straight delivered to your door in 31 states. The reason we pursued it in addition to that data was we always prioritize people. So putting yourself in the consumer's shoes, what does the consumer want today? We just talked about how shelter in place is obviously a major part of today's life. You want stuff delivered to your door. You want that convenience. You know what I mean? So by offering that direct to consumer platform, we saw our warehouse sold out of a quarter of its inventory in the first day. You know what I mean? So it's kind of answering the consumer when the consumer is saying, look, I want to deliver to my door and I want Bomani in all these different geographies that we just haven't launched yet. 31 states versus we're only in 8 states in terms of availability on shelves and retail.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of seeing that, right? It's like such a good way to get new customers, and then also now you can go back to different retailers, restaurants, either on premise or off premise, right? Hey, we have these people in this market. This would be a great angle for you guys, right? So I think it's just going to help all in all. Kind of just the last one, which, by the way, I love that you guys did this. So rad to see it, and I love that brands right now are kind of taking a big stance on trying to get back, and so. I think this is something that has always been in business. I'm kind of bummed that people haven't always done this because I think it's like, at the end of the day, like you were saying, people come first. And I think that's imperative that people understand that, and just having these give back programs, giving back to the community and donations. And I'm hoping post COVID that like when you develop a product, like this is at the core, right? Like this is what should be. So kind of in that regard, like, what inspired you guys to help out with the bartender scene, and what kind of, inspired this partnership that you guys put together?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, and like we talked about, people always come first. When the pandemic first hit and we saw that all the bars and restaurants and stuff were closing, the first thing that came to mind was the bartenders. I mean, we saw a pretty explosive launch out the gate, and we owe a lot of that to the bartenders who were going out of their way, who we met with. They were like, hey, look, try Bomani. I mean, we have a pretty good, consistent advantage. Whenever people try Bomani, they pretty much always come back. So getting that first trial, for the fact that those bartenders were going out of their way and saying to their patrons, like, hey, I want to try this new drink that I really like. We saw that directly translate into our sales that have still been continuing in those geographies just because more people had a chance to try Bomani. So as soon as the pandemic hit, we were like, these poor bartenders, they want to go and earn their wages. They just don't have the opportunity to do that because the bar is closed. So obviously Bomani's 5.7% ABV. We said it would match up nicely if we could do 5.7% of our net proceeds going to help those bartenders. So we've been pursuing the Bartenders Emergency Assistance Program donation since March. We expanded to also donate to the CORE, which is Children of Restaurant Employees. And since then, we've actually decided that through June at least, we are going to extend the BEAP program, which is a really exciting thing to be able to say. I mean, these are good people who just don't have the opportunity to earn their wages in this climate. And it means a lot to us that we can be a part of help that.
Yeah, one thing that I'll add to that really quickly too is a core advantage that we have as a challenger brand is that we have an authentic story, and we can take action very quickly and do things in a really honest and like intentional way. And so doing social good or being a socially conscious business was kind of just like ingrained in the fabric of who we are as people. And so what we recognize is that oftentimes in situations like this, it's easy for larger brands to just make like blanket statements or take blanket approaches that aren't necessarily as in tune with what it truly is that people are feeling right now. So we wanted to tap into that, and I think Sam explained that beautifully.
Yeah, I think definitely the smaller brands are able to really capitalize on it a lot more seamlessly than the larger ones, right? It just comes off a lot more authentic. Because I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have seen that video, but it's pretty much the same thing, all the top brands saying like, in these uncertain times, like the same ad over and over and over and over again. So awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for that. We'll plop it over to the creative side of things and just go from there.
Great. Ben, I'll try and be quick so we can definitely.
Take your time, buddy.
So we're seeing in the first trend, lifestyle and studio photography for millennial brands. Lifestyle media is a huge play as brands are starting to find their niche, better aligning with content with their target audience. I'm curious, outside of influencers, how have you guys embraced lifestyle media? This might be for you, Amin.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you style it out outside of influencers. So we actually pursued a few different things. One is actually a radio show partnership with Dash Radio. It's a really, really cool platform. One of our advisors is an executive at the company, and he basically was like, guys, Dash is essentially like the crossroads of Sirius XM and Pandora, right? It's much more engaging. Consumers can go on and listen to really cool curated stations, and we think that this is a great platform for Bomani to participate in. So we partnered up with them to, on a bi-weekly basis, interview people that are up next or doing things that are kind of up next in culture, fashion, business, etc. Because Bomani is what's up next. And we wanted to create a platform for those people to really share their stories and talk about what's going on. So our first interview was actually with the CEO and founder, DJ Ski, who played the first ever Post Malone, Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber, Nipsey Hussle, Kendrick Lamar songs on the radio. So the guy's kind of a legend, and it was a really, really cool opportunity for us to get insights into what he's doing. And then at the end of the day, tie it back to how Bomani is supporting these individuals in the pursuit of their purpose. So that was one of the first things that we did that we think is really unique. Another thing in regards to like the way that we position our assets. So one thing that Alex said at the beginning, which I really appreciated, was we've combined two of the most popular drinks in like all of human history. coffee and alcohol, right? People have been drinking these things forever. So one of the things that really kind of surprised us was how much of like a mental hurdle it would be for people to jump over, oh wait, they've mixed the two, right? They're not separate anymore. It's coffee and alcohol. So a lot of our content now focuses on creating associations of like alcohol and coffee, or nostalgia to coffee or alcohol separately. So like showing an espresso martini glass with Bomani in it, somebody looks at that and they go, oh, like I get this. This is alcoholic coffee. That's really cool. And so that was kind of a direction that we took early on. But yeah, that's outside of influencer stuff.
I love that. Yeah, I've listened to Dash Radio. I think 1 a.m. Creative with Yes Jules. They definitely have a lot of good shows, and I actually think Josh used to help out.
Yeah.
We don't have to
Yeah,
get that.
it's the second time this week. I used to go up there every Saturday and actually shoot there at the Dash Radio up in LA.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's funny because going from like nobody really knew about Dash Radio, and then this week now everybody's talking about Dash Radio. It's like the weirdest thing I've
So funny. That's great.
Yeah.
And hopping into the second trend, I mean, you guys know that brand packaging and labeling is so important as you guys are going to be growing into more states on the retail side. Being an early stage startup, how important has Bomani's branding been for the growth, and how has it impacted your business?
It is paramount, right? I mean, I think it's the single most important thing that we did out the gate was Sam, Kai, and myself would literally walk up and down the aisles of our local liquor stores, grocery. We were just doing whatever we could to understand what it was that major alcohol brands were doing in their packaging. And what we noticed was most packaging is really noisy. They're desperately vying for the consumer's attention. They're doing whatever they can to stand out. And what they're ignoring is that sometimes that can lead to information overload and it can be very distracting. We looked at it and we were like, let's go completely against the grain. Let's do something really sleek, sexy, clean, and easy to understand. And at the end of the day, that somebody would be proud to like billboard or show as a representation of themselves, right? So I want to be seen with a can or a 4-pack of Bomani. And so our goal with the design was like, let's go against the grain. Let's make it really clean and good looking. And I think that in doing so, when you see Bomani on shelves in stores, it does catch your eye. And you kind of look at it and you're like, whoa, what is that? Fun little anecdote. When we were visiting Minnesota for the first time as we were launching that state, we went to a Total Wine that we were distributing in. And one of the employees there was stocking the shelves. He's merchandising the shelves. And he goes, oh, wait, you guys are the Bomani guys. He's like, man, every time I stock the shelves with this stuff, I take a step back and I just go, wow, like that is so cool. And I always notice it. And that was really meaningful to us because it meant that what we had done with our concept was working.
Yeah. The one other thing I would add, especially that Amin really hit on, is like we have a lot of our distributor partners, and a lot of the guys would be like, "Thank God you guys made a black can." I would like have to kill myself. I was holding another bright white can. Really enabling that, and Amin did an amazing job leading the creative on the design.
Yeah.
Sam, you chatted about the meaning behind Bomani. Can you talk about the meaning behind the logo?
Yeah. So Bomani Cold Buzz is cold brew with a sting. So we picked the B. Obviously, Cold Buzz is a play on cold brew and kind of a hint that there's alcohol in it. So Cold Buzz and then Cold Brew with a sting was like a fun play on that. And then we decided to like really drive it home with the B.
Yeah. And I mean, and to add on that, like Cold Buzz, cold brew and alcohol, the B, like they're all high energy. And that's the brand, right? Like that's the single greatest differentiator of Bomani against every other product out there is that there is about as much caffeine as a half a cup of coffee per can. And that's the core difference, right? You drink Bomani and it gives you something, it offers you something more than what other drinks do.
And that's great. I love that. And going into the next trend, we're seeing video content being very crucial, more in-depth look from brands telling the story. I saw a recent stat that said 81% of people have been convinced to buy a product or service by watching a brand video, especially, brands targeting millennials to tell more of that story. What's your approach to video? I saw some videos on the social side of things. You guys are doing some cool animations. How are you guys approaching it? What's that look for? What does that look like down the road? How are you guys looking at video?
Yeah, great question. So right now, a lot of the video initially was lifestyle video. It was like, showing people the different experiences where you can enjoy and drink Bomani. And obviously since COVID, we kind of pivoted a little bit and we've moved more towards really highlighting the actual beverage. So 15 seconds is kind of like our cap. We like to do stop motion. We like to do stuff that's very engaging and exciting and explosive because you only have such little opportunity to catch the consumer's attention. We're generally focusing on paid advertisements right now with our video and our organic social as well. down the road, we're certainly looking at, showcasing a bit more of the brand and like the people behind the brand and really what purpose and Bomani mean. But that'll be kind of in the future.
Cool. And then going into the last trend, we're seeing a lot of millennial brands being very authentic and transparent with their business or product. You guys talk about being best friends and building a business together. What's your thought about transparency? And as you build this brand, how important is transparency to you guys?
Incredibly. Yeah, incredibly important. I mean, when you look at the alcohol space, you see, that's what we started this conversation off talking about. Like, you see a lot of faceless corporations. Therefore, you see a lot of new products coming out. And the first thought to a lot of consumers' mind is like, oh, well, here we go. Here's the latest faceless corporation coming out with their new whatever this is to impress their stockholders. Like, that wasn't us. We created Bomani because we were living this lifestyle where we wanted alcohol-infused cold brew coffee. And all we wanted to do was share that with other people. And I think that message really rang through as soon as we announced Bomani, because people reached out and they're like, oh, you know what? This is true authenticity. This is actually genuine. All these big brands try to force and like manufacture authenticity, which the modern consumer is too smart to be tricked by. So having that, showing that we're the faces of the company, quote unquote, Bomani is bigger than any of us are, but showing that this isn't this, $100 million company out the gate with all this incredible budget to do all these things. It's just 3 guys that had a vision and wanted to share that vision with everybody else.
Yeah, the one thing I would add is transparency across the board with who's creating the product, and then also the transparency of what our product is and highlighting a nutritional label and what's going into it. That's been something that's more in the non-alc space and in the CPG space for a while, but most alcohol brands have not done that at all because they're not proud of what's going into it, right? Bomani only has 4 ingredients. We're proud of that. We blow that up. We want consumers to know exactly what's going into their bodies because that's what they're looking for. So transparency across the board is a huge pillar for us.
Before I pass it to Ben, and this isn't really a creative question, I'm just curious, starting a business with your best friends, can you guys be honest for a little bit? Can we talk about some of the challenges that
Oh my.
I've launched a business with my brother before, with my dad, with my friends. So I'm really curious to hear, what are some of those challenges that you guys have faced? How have you guys overcome those challenges and just always staying focused on the bigger goal?
I think one. Yeah, go ahead.
In one of the first podcasts we ever did, I got a similar question about like, how did you guys like decide your roles? And I was like, well, if it were up to Sam and Kai to design the can, Sam would put his face on it and Kai would make sure that it was like so to be completely honest, like obviously there's like, there's we're all type A and like we want, we're always pushing each other and we want the best. That's not without, but our heads butt every now and then, but I think that's part of it. And I'll let Sam build on that.
No, I mean, that's a great anecdote. I think there has to be the trust that you have for one another, honestly, the love that you have for one another, the mutual understanding that everything that we do is for the betterment of Bomani, putting your personal ego to the side and saying, okay, you know what? I'm upset with this thing that Kai did. And you have to address it. And if it becomes World War III between you guys, get it out of there. You know what I mean? Like, get it all out, put it out on the table. Because as long as me and Kai, in this example that I'm giving, both understand we're having this conversation for the success of our baby, like that makes the conversation that much more positive. It makes us both stronger. Like, I'll speak personally. I feel like not only have I become a smarter and better business person, I've become a better individual as since we started Bomani because of how much honest and constructive and helpful and consistent feedback I've gotten from my co-founders.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. And honestly, for most best friends or stuff like that, it's probably something I wouldn't recommend. The 3 of us are unique enough in our skill traits, our personalities and stuff where it really does blend, mesh. We really complement each other and bring out the best. Like, it would be impossible for this to have been done without any one of us. But that doesn't mean, like I said, that there aren't a lot of tough to try, like, really dig into each other and can get on each other's nerves. But as long as you know that the other 2 have your back completely and love you and just want the better for you, then you can accept that and you work through that. And we just, like I said, transparency, put it all on the table. It's gonna get addressed and you're gonna get through it.
Yeah, I'll give you guys one more story. And this is a good one, and it's a good look into like the background of how this brand was created. But we were in Europe and we were doing like ingredient tasting, and we were kind of tasting like one of like the final iterations of Bomani, and we had been sitting in this room I think for like 8 hours. And like, it was like this little sheet had like 6 different flavor circles. That was kind of like the end that it was supposed to go to. And I'm not kidding. We had reached like 20. And so at that point, we didn't know if we were just drunk or if we like hated what we were tasting, or like it was just getting ridiculous. And I was really pushing the guys, like honestly, potentially too hard. And the drink at this point was so well done. And I was like, no, it could be better. It could be better. And Kai kind of jumped on me and was like, dude, like, this is it. And I was like, whoa. And I kind of stopped. And I was so thankful in that moment to have them there to be like, pull me back down to earth and go, hey, like, this is your thing, but you got to trust us. We're there and we can't take it any further. And it was like, that was one of those first moments where I was like, man, like, I'm so thankful to have these guys on my team and to make sure that like, I didn't just get stuck in this loop. So that's another, I think, a good example of like how much I appreciate working with these two.
Yeah. And one of the most recent blogs we put on our site too was all about cultural pillars that we've really focused on in the times of shelter in place because we can't be together. One of them is we do a daily call every morning where we're just transparent about what our day looks like. You have to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, today I need help because I'm so overwhelmed. You know, in a lot of industries, it's cool to be like the super hardworking, like, I don't need any help. I can do this all by myself. That's not what we are. Of course, we're incredibly hardworking, but at some point you have to realize that you need help. You need your brothers to come in and say, you know, I need your support on X, Y, and Z today. And we have another work pillar that we say, keep work fun. Like there's this weird stipulation, like expectation in super corporate America that you have to have work and then fun. Like there's no harmony between the two. Oppositely, we always say that the two are definitely not mutually exclusive. You can totally do both. I mean, every Friday we wear our Hawaiian or our Aloha shirts and call it Aloha Friday. We do a happy hour at the end of the day, even virtually. Like for example, we had a really important meeting 2 weeks ago. The type of meeting where we were prepped, we knew everything we were going to say. We had all of our presentation slides down, everything. The second the meeting starts, we go on Zoom. Amin had a full beard at the time, and it surprised us with a full-on Freddie Mercury stash, just the stash. And he already looks like Freddie Mercury too, so it was shocking. But anyway, everyone laughed. The other people we were meeting with, everyone laughed. Like it was good. It was relaxing, and it just kept work fun.
I love it. I actually might start wearing Hawaiian shirts on Friday. All right, Ben, take it away.
Thanks. Cool dudes. I guess first question: how did the mock-ups of the can with Sam's face turn out?
Those never left the brainstorming session. Those never actually. But now that you mention it, I'm thinking about doing that. Maybe April Fool's.
Special release.
Limited edition, yeah. Awesome. Cool, guys. So the digital stuff's really focused around everything online, ads, website, paid social, all that good stuff, influencers even. I think I want to start with this. You know, obviously a lot of brands in the alcohol space trying to get on these digital platforms like Drizzly, online direct to consumer. And you guys have kind of taken a different approach and sort of incorporated this marketplace on your website. I guess first things first, how did that conversation go talking about getting onto these more public platforms like Drizzly compared to making this own one on your site? What's that process been like for you guys?
Yeah, so there are definitely pros and cons to the delivery platforms versus genuine DTC. Like when you think about a delivery platform, like we said, Drizzly, Minibar, whatever, we're on those types of platforms and they're incredible and they're great, but they're still limited to the regions that were already available in retail. So you can get, Bomani on Minibar in New Jersey, but what if you live in Texas? What if you live in Dallas and you don't have access to any of those delivery services because we're not on retail shelves there? So we expanded from 8 states to 31 states just by opening this online platform. So that's kind of like the first major difference. It creates a lot of it allows the consumer the convenience of just being on the site, even if they're not somewhere where they can go pick some Bomani up. They can click that button and get it delivered to their door. There are definitely also benefits in traditional retail in that you get the impulse buy. You're going to pick up your hard seltzers or you're going to pick up your tequila and you're walking around the store and you say, oh, this stands out on shelves. To echo back to what Amin said, this stuff stands out on shelves. What's Bomani Cold Buzz? And they grab it. And again, like I said at the very beginning, when someone tries Bomani, they almost always come back for more.
Awesome. And I know you guys have mentioned a lot, like convenience is a big thing for you. And when we look at, direct to consumer and buying online and things like that, and I think a big thing kind of affecting the way people buy alcohol, right, is a lot of the time it's last minute when you're heading to a party or an event or something like that, you'll stop by the liquor store and purchase. So I think the convenience of time going into the liquor store and like a last minute purchase is a big thing. What are some of those like key challenges or benefits you guys have seen within the direct to consumer space for alcohol that are kind of affecting consumers' decision to buy in store and buy online?
So when it comes to the consumer's decision to buy in store or buy online, you're totally right that when consumers are in the store, they're making a last minute trip. That makes sense to go buy it in store. But obviously today, people are spending a lot more time on their phones, on Instagram, all of these different content channels because people are bored. They're in their house all day. So when they get the chance to say what was typically an in-store discovery or a potential in-store discovery can very easily be translated to an online discovery today. The same walking through the aisle to pick up the tequila, the example that I gave, and looking around and saying, oh, there's Bomani over there, is a very similar experience to going on your Instagram feed. Maybe you've looked at cocktails, or maybe you've looked at coffee or hard seltzers, or maybe you've looked at, energy drinks and alcohol, or maybe they can just tell that you like premium stuff because of other stuff in your feed. Bomani comes up and you're like, oh, this is the way I discover it in today's world.
Yeah. The one thing I would add about that was the discovery is so many times, like on the digital ads or stuff like that, you'll see people that obviously like commenting, ooh, I need to find this. Ooh, where can I get this? And now if you get that ad and you just have the ability to click deliver, it takes out all that next step or the uncertainty if they're going to go out and actually like act on that and find it. All they have to do is click 2 buttons and they have it delivered to their door.
Awesome. Now, kind of taking a little bit of a move into the social side, you guys do a ton of organic, obviously, a ton of paid social. I'm curious from the paid social side, do you guys do a lot of that stuff in-house? You have a team member working on that? Have you guys got agencies that you partner with? What's that kind of relationship like?
So I manage kind of the leadership of most of that. We use an outside third-party agency who basically helps us with all of our paid, boosted, basically like timing KPIs, story posts, organic posts, retargeting, whatever it might be. We work with them very holistically, and we've kind of been ramping it up over time. Obviously, it doesn't make as much sense to run like a full-scale retargeting program if you're not available in a ton of geographies, right? Or if you can't like connect somebody to a finalized purchase or an event that you can track very closely. With the launch of DTC, we're ramping up that program up a little bit more, and I think that it's just been a core pillar to what we do as a business because it's so scalable.
Right. And what are some of the KPIs for you guys in terms of success? I mean, you can really focus on building the brand and getting attention towards, following and building an audience. And then you can also have that direct response, get into the website, make a purchase. How do you kind of work with those two goals? And are there any other KPIs you guys focus on?
Yeah. So obviously direct response, it's tough to track in alcohol, right?
Yep.
Like, how are you going to track whether or not somebody went to the site, put in the zip code store locator, and then actually acted upon going to the store and buying? However, now that we have the DTC platform, we have a lot more insight into that because we can track all the way through to purchase and delivery. So that's been very exciting. And it was another core reason as to why we launched that platform. What we really focus on is a highly engaged following. So basically since day one, the goal was, okay, we could easily just like partner up with a couple people and land like 30,000 plus followers in a heartbeat, right? That's so inauthentic. It's so against what we want to be doing. One of my least favorite things is to go to someone's page, see like 100,000 plus followers and 50 likes on a post. Because what that screams to me is that you just got like a bot farm or just a bunch of fake followers. And it doesn't really show me that there is a movement behind the brand or that there are people or that there's a community behind it. What I like to see is lively discussion and discourse in the comments, a lot of sharing, a lot of UGC, and building a brand digitally over time that has a much more focused and participative like following than just mass. So our focus is right now are building brand awareness and then leveraging that brand awareness to help with sales and information.
Awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of the time it really comes down to how much value you're actually providing to consumers, right? Not being fake. The authenticity is a huge thing. And as we move down, we're looking at obviously the paid side, but influencers are another huge factor for a lot of emerging brands, especially in the millennial space and also the e-commerce space. I'm curious, how much have you guys effort have you guys put in towards those influencers, those partnerships with brands and influencers and things like that?
Yeah, so we really do value those partnerships because they're needle movers, and it's kind of crazy. I think early days we saw a statistic where it was like 91% of consumers are more likely to make a purchase from an influencer who has fewer than 20,000 followers than somebody like a Kim Kardashian, right? It's pretty fascinating. More and more consumers are kind of cutting through the inauthenticity. They can see through, basically like, there's a difference between me connecting with somebody who I actually feel I can relate to than somebody who's just completely out of touch and is like a supernova celebrity, right? So what we focus on from an influencer standpoint is a healthy mix of the micro and nano, that like power middle, and then a couple of those like macro influencer partnerships. And we really want to create long lasting like relationships and like back and forth with those people over a long period of time. Out the gate, one thing that we did that was really well received, and Kaylee was a recipient of one of these gifts. We created these awesome Bomani branded mini fridges that they're like desktop fridges. And when we were kind of rolling out in our first few states, we gave it to about 30 editors and influencers, kind of as like a show of good faith that like, hey, we're here. We're a lot more creative than most brands, and we're actually doing things that are totally challenging what people are used to. And even that was like an example of that.
Yeah. And kind of like taking that to the next level is more so those long-term relationships that you guys can build, right? So the big influencers, those massive ones, I think every consumer now is well aware of what that process is like. Consumers are getting paid to post a post to their feed or to their story and things like that. But with the long-term content and those month or yearly annual relationships that you guys have with influencers is really a credibility builder for them and also for the brand. So I'm curious, you guys obviously, I'm assuming, see a lot of value in those long-term relationships and just constant touch points with those partnerships you have.
Yeah, 100%. I think that building those authentic relationships over time is really critical. Some of the brands that have done the best job of building those relationships are the ones that are performing the best right now. I mean, I'll use Michelob as like a great example of a brand that just really found their niche, partnered up with the right partners, and really drove those relationships where it was like, okay, you know, we're going after the triathletes, we're going after people who are like super athletes and sporty. They bring those influencers with them to events that they've created partnerships with, that their consumer knows, oh, that's a Michelob influencer, right? And you see lift in your local retailers around those events. So like if they're doing an event in Huntington Beach, you'll actually see the local retailers like increase sales over the weekend because they have such a strong relationship with that influencer and people are almost viewing them as like a Michelob celebrity. So I think that there is a lot of value in it. I think that it takes time. And as a new brand, the focus should be more on like creating those like baseline relationships and then really nailing them and using them to your advantage later on.
Absolutely, yeah. We've talked with, and we've also worked with a ton of brands with the influencer space and the partnerships. And I think it's just in terms of building credibility and building relationships that you have to be long-term driven, because those short-term, quick turnarounds, you're not going to see the ROI on it unless the people that are following or audiences of these people and brands are really buying into those kind of conversations. So, and then lastly, you know, you guys have a great presence on social. You know, you've got the highlights, you've got the lifestyle media, you've got the studio, you've got the video content, a lot of effort going in there. Obviously, I'm curious, you know, 24, 36 months down the line, how important do you see social and organic kind of being in that whole marketing strategy that you guys are implementing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on it and I'll let Sam build on it too. But I personally basically think that if you're not leveraging the power of social media and the ability to connect so closely, intimately, and directly with your consumers, you're just leaving dollars on the table. I think it's an unbelievably unique way in our time to be able to speak to people that care about your brand. And even introduce the brand to new people in such a cost-effective way. And it still blows my mind when I see these massive brands that have all the dollars in the world that aren't utilizing social to their advantage.
Yeah, and to add on that too, like I think when you see these big brands, even when they do spend their dollars, it's just really obvious they're trying to buy a social presence, which is so inauthentic. Going back to the point on authenticity, we like to repost cool pictures that people who follow Bomani or people who are going to buy Bomani send us. Like if they go to their local grocer and there's a really cool looking stack, like I know there was one in LA, the guy bought a pretty substantial amount of Bomani on Tuesday, literally hadn't even put it on shelves yet, and it was just on the floor. And someone walked in, took a picture of that, sent it on our Instagram, we posted it on the story. Like that is much more grassroots. It's much more authentic. It's much more real to the consumer. It makes everyone feel rightfully involved because they are a part of what's going on. They are a part of the Bomani movement.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for those answers. I think it's super helpful just seeing, especially on the digital side, it's something that can't really be ignored in especially the e-commerce and alcohol space. So cheers. Joshy, I'll hand over to you, mate.
Yeah, cool. Thank you guys. Very much appreciated. So what we like to do at the end is just have a quick little kind of recap of what we heard, right? So, you know, if somebody's listening to this right now, hopefully when they're looking at it, it's like the best ways to stand out is seek new and innovative products, right? So challenge the status quo, which is something you guys wrote on your Our Story page, which I love and we 100% align with. You know, looking to get into this market, looking at, you know, the growth of ready to drink beverages. So taking a different approach on that, solely focus on what you can do with partnerships, right? So we're looking at our influencer partnerships, which I love that you guys are actually like going to work with influencers and actually take that. Cause I know a lot of companies that are like, oh, we'll give you $50 for a post. And like, that's the last they hear of them. So I love that you guys have that. And then also you're bringing your brand DNA into helping with the community, donations, you name it. Kind of cruising down also with the brand packaging, the labeling, just something to keep an emphasis on. So one of the things that you guys did a huge strategy was shifting from the white aesthetic look and feel to more of the black and having it very clean, which I think is just something that a lot of brands just want to stuff a lot of things on one can or per se. And then hopefully a lot of people learn about, you know, the D2C approach when it comes to alcohol and kind of growing it that way online and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I know we're kind of at the top of the hour. So thank you guys. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but one of the last things that I do want to ask too, that we love to do is kind of, you know, our brand DNA pillar is all about the idea of staying moving. and we have it as much about internally as externally, right? And when Andrew, myself, and Each created the brand 6 years ago, that was something that like it always challenged us, which you guys are all about being vulnerable and being real. And like, hey, some days are awesome and some days are gnarly, right? So I would just love to know when you hear the word stay moving, what does that kind of mean to each of you guys? If you could quickly rattle that off.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say to me, stay moving means stay pivoting, stay adapting. Like one of the things we always say is that selling products is boring. We want Bomani to be a part of culture. So we intentionally built a business that can kind of adapt and navigate those waters to be real, be authentic. When we first launched it in mid-February, we had a huge advantage doing sampling. Like you go to the store, you sample a Bomani, no joke. Like we would sell out of a store's inventory in an hour, 2 hours of sampling. That was ripped out from under us come basically March. Then we launched California in May and had pivoted quickly enough. We stayed moving, stayed adapting to the point that the first day we launched California, we sold out in every store we were in like 12 hours. Then we restocked the next week and we sold out again. So that's to me what stay moving means.
Yeah. Sam did a really good job of sort of saying that. It's not getting complacent. I think really for me, we have sort of policy where when we have big wins, taking those 5 minutes to celebrate them, because you have accomplished a lot and there's a lot of hard times and stuff like that. Really taking the time to realize what we've done and then keeping moving. Us as a challenger brand, it really fits into one of my like ethos of my life. I say I'm uncomfortable when I'm comfortable. So always pushing the boundaries. And I think you have to, especially as a startup brand and something like that, you can't do what's been done before and expect to change when you don't have the resources that these huge brands do. So you have to do stuff in new ways and always be adapting.
Yeah. My interpretation of it is just rolling with the punches. We joke that if we went back to like day one and Sam came up to Kai and I and was like, hey, do you guys want to start an alcohol-infused cold brew company? Had I known then what I know now, probably would have said, you're fucking, I'm not doing it. It's been a wild ride, and literally every day, as a matter of fact, every hour you get news that's like devastating and also, like euphoric and uplifting. And it's like keeping that level set, roll with the punches, keep moving forward. Don't let things kind of swing you out of whack, and just know that like the long-term stake is in the ground, and every day you're just inching towards those goals. But yeah, that's how I interpret it.
Yeah, one thing, I loved what Amin just said. We get the question a lot of times, like, what is it like to be an entrepreneur and being like that? And I'd always be like, you read those books of the successful companies like Phil Knight's Shoe Dog or something like that, and you literally like think they're making it up. You're like, there can't be that many things on a daily basis that go wrong. Like it seems like, and then you get into it and you're just like, Jesus, like how many fire drills a day do I have to put out? Or like, this can't be real. Like if I actually told you everything that's gone into like creating this, like you think I'm making it up. So just like Amin said, rolling with the punches and always realizing that like one door closing is another door opening. And failure is not a real thing unless you accept it. Just not accepting it.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel like I'm the fireman, dude. That's literally what I feel like. That's what I always say. I'm just like, yep, all right, let's go. And one thing that I just wanted to just kind of close it, right, is like, when Andrew and I started it with each and two, it's, he designed this thing and said, life's only constant is change, right? And it's actually, I have it in my room right now. And that's just something that's always, when you look at something in life, right, like the change is what's going to make the positive progression. So that's just like a huge quote that I live by every day. It's like, if I don't have that change or that like derailing, how am I going to grow? So that's something that we've taken with Stay Moving, whether it's working with brands, clients, friends, you name it, just constantly trying to challenge the status quo back to you guys as well. So just want to kind of say that caveat. Thank you guys again. Hope everybody has an awesome Friday. Thank you. Keep it up. Super stoked to see what you guys are doing. And you guys, I know you're just beginning, so keep it up. Like I know you've been cranking last couple of years, and I'm just stoked to kind of see what you guys produce. So keep it up.
Thank you guys so much for having us, man. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
All right, later.